There's a man in the water off the bow right now, and the ship that drowned the rest of his crew is already gone. Slipped under in the dark, the way they do, with a sound like the sea taking a long breath. The wreck did not kill most of those men. What killed them was the next hour. More went to the bottom after the ship was lost than ever went down with her, and the strongest swimmer aboard was nearly always the first to go. I know how backward that sounds. Stay with me. Because the thing that saved the men who walked home cost nothing at all. No strength, no nerve, no great feat in the freezing dark. It was the one thing every part of a drowning man screams at him not to do. And the men who could do it lived, and the men who could not are still out there. I'll show you exactly what it was, and why the bravest, strongest men in the boat were the ones the sea took first. But before I do, let me tell you who I am, and why I have spent 50 years unable to forget a thing I watched a young man do off a wrecked hull in cold water. I went to sea before I had the sense to fear it, and I spent the better part of my life in the smallest boats a man can take onto the open ocean. The whale boats, the open craft we rowed out after the whale. No deck, no shelter, nothing between a man and the deep but a few planks and the skill not to lose them. A whaleman learns the water the hard way. He learns it swamped, frozen, bailing with his hat, miles from the ship in a sea that does not care. And I have done the worst work that water ever asked of me, which is to pull men out of it. Some living, more not. The men who taught me did not learn what they knew from any book. They learned it the way the sea teaches everything, by burying the men who got it wrong, and then making sure the rest of us never did. There was a boat steerer on one of my early voyages, an old hand with hands like knotted rope, who had one rule he hammered into every green man aboard until we were sick of hearing it. Stay with the boat. That was all. Stay with the boat. If she swamps, stay with her. If she rolls, stay with her. If the ship goes down under you and you find yourself in the water, you find something that floats and you do not let go of it for any reason, for any voice, for any shore. He never explained it. He was not a man. Happened to the ones who did. It was years before I learned why he carried that rule the way another man carries a scar. He'd had a younger brother once, on a coaster that went onto the rocks in a winter sea. The two of them came off her together and got to the same floating spar, and they hung there side by side in the cold, and there was a light on the shore. Frightened young man himself told him to stay, to hold on, that a boat would come. His brother let go of the spar and swam for the light, strong and sure, and the boat steerer held on and watched him go, and watched his stroke fail, and watched the dark take him not halfway across. A boat came at first light and took the man off the spar alive. His brother was never found. So when that old hand said stay with the boat, he was not reciting a rule. He was trying to keep some other man's brother out of the water that took his. I thought he was a fussy old man. I thought, like every young man thinks, that the rules were for slower men than me. I was strong. I could swim. I had crossed harbors on a bet. What did I have to fear from a stretch of open water with land in sight? It took me 2 years and one wreck to understand that the old man had been trying to keep me alive, and that nearly everything I believed about my own strength was exactly the thing that killed men. So, hold this, and keep hold of it through everything I tell you now. How does the strongest swimmer in the boat drown first, within sight of the very boat that would have carried him home? That is the whole riddle. Sit with it. The answer is coming, and when it comes, it will turn everything you think you know about surviving the sea on its head. Let me take you to the moment it happens, because it almost never happens the way folk imagine. People picture a wreck, and they picture the sinking, the mast going over, the water rushing in, men swept down with the ship, and that happens, surely. But that is not where most of the dying is done. Most of the men who die in a wreck are alive when the ship goes under. They get clear of her. They reach a boat, or a spar, or a piece of the wreckage still floating. By every reckoning, the worst is behind them. The ship is gone and they are still breathing. And then the next hour kills more of them than the sinking ever did. There are two ways it takes them, and a man should know them both, because the first one starts before anybody is even in the water. The first happens in the boat. A wrecked crew gets a boat over, a sound boat. A boat that would have carried every one of them to safety if they had only sat still and let her. And they lose it to their own fear. Too many men crowd to one rail to watch the ship go, and she heels and ships water. A man stands up in a small boat in a seaway, and a small boat will not abide a standing man, and over she goes. Men climb over one another to get aboard her all at once, half a dozen hands on the same gunwale, and they roll the only thing that could have saved them. I have seen a good boat, dry and whole, turned to wreckage in a minute by frightened men doing exactly what their fear told them to do. The boat did not fail them, their panic did. A boat is a discipline before it is a vessel. She only floats for men who keep their heads. The second way is the one that takes the swimmers, and it is the colder one. The man who keeps his head, or the man with no boat left to keep it in, ends up in the water with something floating beside him, and a shore or a sail on the horizon. He is cold, he is frightened, and every nerve in his body is screaming the same word, and the word is move. Do something, swim, get to that shore, get to that boat. Do not just hang here in the freezing water and wait. So the strong man, the able man, the one with the most life still in his arms, he strikes out. He leaves the wreck. He swims for it. That is the mistake. That is the lifeboat mistake. And it has drowned more good men than any storm I ever rode out. Because here is what the cold water does, and it does it fast, and it does it to the strong man same as the weak one. The first thing the cold does, the very instant a man goes in, is take his breath. Not slowly, all at once. The shock of it punches the air out of him and makes him gasp, a great involuntary heave of the lungs he cannot stop no matter how hard he is. And if his face is under when that gasp comes, he breathes water. Not because he panicked, not because he was weak, because his own body did it to him. In the first half minute, in calm water under a clear sky. The sea does not need a storm to drown a man. It only needs him cold and surprised. I have seen strong men lost in the first moment that way, before they had even understood they were in danger. A man who lives through that first shock thinks the worst is over. It isn't. The second thing is quieter, and it is what takes the swimmers. The cold reaches into his arms, and it switches them off. Slowly, then all at once, his hands stop gripping. His stroke goes weak, then weaker, then it is not a stroke at all, just a man slapping at the water. I have heard it said, and I have seen it proved, that a man known his whole life as a strong swimmer cannot cross 6 or 10 feet of cold water once it has had him a few minutes, cannot pull himself the length of his own body to save his life. The strength does not drain out slow enough for him to notice in time. He feels strong. He feels like he can make that shore, right up until his arms quietly stop answering, and by then he is too far from the wreck to get back to it, and the shore is exactly as far as it always was, which was always farther than it looked, and that is the cruelty of it, the part that took me years to make my peace with. The strength is the trap. The strong swimmer believes his strength will carry him, so he is the one who lets go of the wreck and strikes out. The weak man, the one who cannot swim a stroke, is too frightened to let go, so he clings to the boat, to the spar, to whatever holds him up, and the cold comes for them both. But the cold cannot drown the man who is already holding on to something that floats. It can only drown the man who let go to swim. I told you I'd show you a thing I watched a young man do and could never forget. He was a foremast hand on a vessel that came apart on us in cold water, a big strong lad, the kind you'd pick first for any work that needed a back behind it. When she went, a good handful of us got clear and got to the wreckage, and we hung on, and we waited, because the old boat steerer's words were in some of us by then. Stay with the boat. But that young man looked at the shore, and there was a shore, gray and low, and a mile off, maybe more. You cannot judge it over water, and he could not bear to wait. He was strong. He could swim. He let go, and he struck out for it, smooth and certain, the best swimmer among us. He did not make a quarter of the way. We watched his stroke shorten. We watched his head go lower. We watched the strongest man among us stop swimming. Not all at once, but like a clock winding down, until the sea simply closed over the place where he had been. And the man hanging next to me on that spar, a little wiry fellow who had told me once, ashamed, that he had never learned to swim a stroke, that man lived. He clung on with hands that would not let go because he was too afraid to try anything else, and the fear that shamed him was the thing that carried him home. Stay with me. Because the part that makes this the whole truth of the sea is right here, and it is bigger than any one wreck. Now, why does no one tell you this? Why is it not the first thing every man who goes near the water is taught? It is not a secret anyone is keeping. It is sadder than that, and simpler. A man only learns this lesson in the one place it can be learned, which is in the water, in the cold, with the wreck behind him and the shore ahead. And most of the men who learn it there do not come back to teach it. The knowledge goes down with the swimmers. The ones who lived by instinct or by an old boat steerer's nagging, and half of them never understood why they were spared. So it never becomes common knowledge. It never makes it into the things men say to one another over a fire. And so every generation sends its strongest, ablest young men into the same cold water with the same proud certainty. And the water takes them the same way it always has. And there is one thing more, the thing that makes the mistake almost impossible for a man to avoid by feel alone. Everything inside a drowning man tells him to swim. The cold, the fear, the sight of the shore, all of it screams, move, do something, do not just hang here. The instinct that feels most like survival is the exact instinct that drowns him. Stillness feels like giving up. Clinging to a wreck while your body shakes feels like waiting to die. But out there, stillness is the only thing that looks anything like home in the morning. A man has to override the loudest voice in his own body and trust a quiet rule instead. And most men cannot do it because the voice that says swim sounds exactly like the will to live.
Dying.
So here is what the old boat steerer knew, and what I am handing to you now, plain as I can make it. If the ship goes and you find yourself in the water, you find the thing that floats, the boat, the wreck, a spar, a hatch cover, anything, and you get hold of it, and you do not let go, not for a shore, not for another boat, not for any voice in your own head. That float is the only friend you have, and it does two things no shore can do. It holds you up when your arms have quit, and it is the thing the rescuers can see. A man low in the water is invisible. A man on the wreck can be found. If there is a sound boat under you, you keep her sound. You sit low, you sit still, you keep your weight down in her belly and not up on her rail, and you do not let frightened men stand or crowd or climb. More boats are lost to the men in them than to the sea around them. A boat will carry you through worse than you think, if you only let her. You get as much of yourself out of that water as you can. The water steals your heat many times faster than the air. An inch of you out of the sea is worth more than a mile of swimming. You stay still. Every part of you will want to thrash, to swim, to fight the cold with motion. And the motion only pours your heat out faster and drowns you sooner. Stillness keeps what warmth you have. Stillness keeps you alive long enough to be found. And know the last trick the cold keeps for the men who do everything right, because it is the cruelest one of all. After the shaking stops, and it will stop, a strange warmth comes over a man. The fear goes quiet. The cold stops feeling like cold. He feels almost peaceful, almost drowsy, and the spar he has been holding for his life begins to feel like a thing he could set down, just for a moment, just to rest. That peace is not rescue. That peace is the cold finishing its work. More than one man has been pulled stiff and gone from a piece of wreckage he plainly had the strength to hold, for no reason anyone could see, except that the cold had convinced him at the very last that it would be all right to let go. So when the warmth comes over you, and the float feels heavy in your arms, that is the moment you hold on hardest. That false comfort is the last lie standing between you and the morning, and a great many good men have believed it, and you never, ever strike out for a shore you cannot be sure of. That gray line on the horizon is a liar. It is always closer to your eye than to your arms, and the cold will have your arms long before you reach it. The man who waits with the wreck has a chance. The man who swims for the shore has made his choice, and the sea has already made its. And if you are ever the man in the boat who comes upon another in the water, know this before you reach him. The cold has most likely already taken his hands. He will not be able to grip the rope you throw him, however much his life hangs on it. However hard he wills his fingers to close, they simply will not answer. Do not curse him for it, and do not wait for him to haul himself up to you. You go to him, you take hold of him yourself, and you bring him in like dead weight, because to a man that far gone, your hands are the only hands left working in the world. I have lost men who were still alive when we found them. lost them in the last few feet of all that ocean, because we threw a line to fingers that could no longer hold it, and learned too late that we should have gone and got them. There is a last, hard truth in it, for the man who does get pulled out, and it is worth the knowing. A man hauled half dead from cold water is not safe the moment his feet touch the deck. Bring him up gentle, lay him down, keep him still, and warm him slow. I have seen men live through the whole ordeal of the water, and then stand up too soon, too proud to be carried, and drop dead on a dry deck with the danger behind them. Even at the end, it is stillness that saves a man, and haste that kills him. They did not drown because the sea was cruel. The sea has no cruelty in it. It is only cold and patient and entirely without interest in whether a man lives. They drowned because they were strong and certain and could not bear to do nothing. The sea does not drown the frightened man first. It drowns the certain one. It takes the swimmer and spares the one who clung every time. And the only difference between them was not strength or nerve. It was the humility to stay still while every nerve screamed to fight. That is the thing I would hand you before any rope or knot or trick of the trade. Out there, your strength is the liar and your stillness is the truth. The men who came home were never the strongest. They were the ones humble enough to do nothing and to hold on, while better swimmers than them struck out into the cold and were never seen again. So tell me, down in the comments, what is the one hard piece of caution your people carried? The kind that sounds like cowardice until the day it saves your life. The kind nobody writes down because the men who learned it too late to pass it on. Put it below. I read every one, and that knowledge deserves to outlast the men who paid for it. Next time, I'll tell you about a thing that held a crew together through hunger and cold, and 100 miles of empty sea, the daily ration every man depended on. And how that same small mercy, in the wrong hands at the wrong hour, turned a crew of brothers into something I still don't have the words for. Until then, mind your fire, and never trust calm water to tell you the truth at sea.